Reading through the Bible in a year, June 25th, Deuteronomy chapter 30, Psalm 119, verses 73 through 96, Isaiah 57, and Matthew chapter 5. So it shall be, when all of these things have come upon you, the blessing and the curse which I have set before you, and you call them to mind in all the nations where Yahweh your God has banished you. See, there's no question on this. He's saying it's going to happen exactly as I have said, not that God's going to force the people to violate his law. He's going to allow them to do what their heart's desire is. Their free will lead them to worship demons and abandon the God who has given them all of the peace and safety and security and land and everything else that they have. Their free will drive them from him, and he will impose on them hard times to remind them of the God who saves. That's his point. Verse 2, and you return to Yahweh your God and obey him with all your heart and soul according to all that I command you today, you and your sons. Then Yahweh your God will restore you from captivity and have compassion on you, and will gather you again from all the peoples where Yahweh your God has scattered you, banishing and scattering. If your outcasts are at the ends of the earth, from there Yahweh your God will gather you, and from there he will bring you back. Yahweh your God will bring you into the land which your fathers possessed, and you shall possess it. And he will prosper you and multiply you more than your fathers. Moreover, Yahweh your God will circumcise your heart and the heart of your descendants to love Yahweh your God with all your heart and with all your soul, so that you may live. Yahweh your God will inflict all these curses on your enemies and on those who hate you, who persecuted you. And you shall again obey Yahweh your God and observe all his commandments, which I command you today. Then Yahweh your God will prosper you abundantly in all the work of your hand, in the offspring of your body, and in the offspring of your cattle, and in the produce of your ground, for Yahweh will again rejoice over you for your good, just as he rejoiced over your fathers. If you obey Yahweh your God to keep his commandments and his statutes, which are written in the book of his law, or in the book of the law, if you turn to Yahweh your God with all your heart and soul. For this commandment which I command you today is not too difficult for you, nor is it out of reach. It is not in heaven that you should say, well, who will go up to heaven for us, to get it for us and make us hear it, that we may observe it? Nor is it beyond the sea that you should say, well, who will cross the sea for us, to get it for us, and make us hear it, that we may observe it? But the word is very near you, in your mouth and in your heart, that you may observe it. See, I have set before you today life and prosperity, and death and adversity. In that I command you today to love Yahweh your God and to walk in his ways and to keep his commandments and his statutes and his judgments, that you may live and multiply, and that Yahweh your God may bless you in the land where you are entering to possess it. But if your heart turns away and you will not obey, but are drawn away and worship other gods and serve them, I declare to you today that you shall surely perish. You will not prolong your days in the land where you were crossing the Jordan to enter and possess it. I call heaven and earth to witness against you today that I have set before you life and death, blessing and the curse. So choose life in order that you may live, you and your descendants, by loving Yahweh your God and obeying his voice, and by holding fast to him. For this is your life and the length of your days, that you may live in the land which Yahweh your God swore to your fathers, to Abraham, to Isaac, and to Jacob, to give to them. Now Psalm 119, verses 73 through 96. Yod. Your hands made me and fashioned me. Give me understanding that I may learn your commandments. May those who fear you see me and be glad, because I wait for your word. I know, O Yahweh, that your judgments are righteous, and that in faithfulness you have afflicted me. O may your loving kindness comfort me, according to your word to your servant. May your compassion come to me, that I may live, for your law is my delight. May the arrogant be ashamed, for they subvert me with a lie. But I shall meditate on your precepts. May those who fear you turn to me, even those who know your testimonies. May my heart be blameless in your statutes, so that I will not be ashamed. Puff. My soul languishes for your salvation. I wait for your word. My eyes fail with longing for your word, while I say, when will you comfort me? Though I have become like a wineskin in the smoke, I do not forget your statutes. How many are the days of your servant? When will you execute judgment on those who persecute me? The arrogant have dug pits for me, men who are not in accord with your law. All your commandments are faithful. They have persecuted me with a lie. Help me. They almost destroyed me on the earth. But as for me, I did not forsake your precepts. Revive me according to your loving kindness, so that I may keep the testimony of your mouth. Lamed. Forever, O Yahweh, your word is settled in heaven. Your faithfulness continues throughout all generations. You established the earth, and it stands. They stand this day according to your ordinances, for all things are your servants. If your law had not been my delight, then I would have perished in my affliction. I will never forget your precepts, for by them you have revived me. I am yours. Save me, for I have sought your precepts. The wicked wait for me to destroy me. I shall diligently consider your testimonies. I have seen a limit to all perfection. Your commandment is exceedingly broad. Isaiah 57 now. The righteous man perishes, and no man takes it to heart. Devout men are taken away while no one understands. For the righteous man is taken away from evil. He enters into peace. They rest on their beds, each one who walked in his upright way. But come here, you sons of a sorceress, offspring of an adulterer and a prostitute. Against whom do you jest? Against whom do you open wide your mouth and stick out your tongue? Are you not children of rebellion, offspring of deceit, who inflame yourselves among the oaks, under every luxuriant tree, who slaughter the children in the ravines, under the clefts of the crags? These are all things that were done in pagan worship. Among the smooth stones of the ravine is your portion. They are your lot. Even to them you have poured out a drink offering. You have made a grain offering. Shall I relent concerning these things? Upon a high and lofty mountain you have made your bed. You also went up there to offer sacrifice. Behind the door and the doorpost you have set up your sign. Indeed, far removed from me, you have uncovered yourself. You have gone up and made your bed wide, and you have made an agreement for yourself with them. You have loved their bed. You have looked on their manhood. You have journeyed to the king with oil and increased your perfumes. You have sent your envoys a great distance and made them go down to Sheol. You were tired out by the length of your road, yet you did not say it is hopeless. You found renewed strength, therefore you did not faint. Of whom were you worried and fearful when you lied and did not remember me, nor give me a thought? Was I not silent even for a long time, so you do not fear me? I will declare your righteousness and your deeds, but they will not profit you. When you cry out, let your collection of idols deliver you. But the wind will carry all of them up, and a breath will take them away. But he who takes refuge in me will inherit the land. will possess my holy mountain. And it will be said, build up, prepare the way, remove every obstacle out of the way of my people. For thus says the high and exalted one, who lives forever, whose name is holy. I will dwell on a high and holy place, and also with the contrite and lowly of spirit, in order to revive the spirit of the lowly, and to revive the heart of the contrite. I will not contend forever, nor will I always be angry, for the spirit will grow faint before me, and the breath of those whom I have made. Because of the iniquity of his unjust gain, I was angry and struck him. I hid my face and was angry. Then he went on turning away, in the way of his heart. I have seen his ways, but I will heal him. I will lead him and restore comfort to him and to his mourners, creating the praise of the lips. Peace, peace to him who is far and to him who is near, says Yahweh, and I will heal him. But the wicked are like the tossing sea, for it cannot be quiet, and its waters toss up refuse and mud. There is no peace, says my God, for the wicked. Now, Matthew chapter 5. All right. If this is your first time reading through the Bible with me, and if you missed this when we did it the first time, just as a quick note, the Sermon on the Mount is one of my favorite places that I like to park a little bit, and you'll see why. This is 3 chapters long, so expect a little bit longer readings for the next 2 days, this day and then the 2 days preceding. It's important to remember the symbolism that's being played out here. So, Jesus is about to climb up on top of a mountain. Well, not really climb, but he's going to walk up to the top of the mountain. And remember historically about what was done on top of a mountain previously. Moses led the people out of Egypt by the power of God, by the power and authority and the strong right hand of God. God did all of the wonders in Egypt, led them out, provided them safety and shelter from the approaching army of Egypt, destroyed the Egyptian army before them, putting an actual sea between the two of them so that they could not be pursued any longer, giving them a firm break from what they had before. And then God led them by a fairly direct path to his mountain, from which he stood on. This is the mountain that he had met Moses on prior. And now he stands before the people on top of this mountain, and he warns them, saying, tomorrow I will meet with you, so cleanse yourselves. And no one is to touch this holy mountain. No one is to come near it. If any animals touch it, you aren't to touch them. You are to throw rocks at them until they are dead, for the mountain is holy, and everything on it is holy. And the people prepare themselves, and then the next day, God assembles the people, and he speaks to all of them, all 2.5 million people. God speaks to them from the top of the mountain. And there's a flame of fire, and there's black smoke, and there's a loud trumpet that's going continually, getting louder and louder and louder. And there's an earthquake that goes the whole time. Those are just signs of what God is doing. What he says to them is the important part. And God tells them in their own language the 10 commandments of God. That's all he provides to them. And the people are so terrified that they go to Moses and they say, you speak to us. You become a representative of God to us. You go talk to God. Whatever he says, we will do, but never let that happen again, for we are scared to death. Moving forward, about 3,000 years. Jesus, God in the flesh, now takes his disciples up on top of the mountain. Maybe the same mountain, maybe not. But he brings them up to the top of a mountain, and he begins to speak to them the words of the Sermon on the Mount that we're going to see over the next 2 days, today and then 2 more days, chapters 5 through 7. Remember that the people had been believing, but this was just a list of rules. They were given 613 total laws, making up the 10 commandments and then the civil and ceremonial laws, right? That civil are how they should react with each other and act with one another. And then these ceremonial laws are for how they shall handle things within the temple itself, temple worship, and how they're and how the high holy days are to be handled, and all of these things. So this is an important thing to remember, that the people had been told that this law was very doable. It was easy. God had given them the firm standard of what it is that he was saying, and the people responded in fear, abject fear of God. But over time, the priests have slowly been shaving off the hard parts, making it palatable for the people, so they would think that they could actually keep it on their own. Again, there was a common saying in that time that they were the people of Israel because they were the people of Abraham, and therefore, it didn't matter what they did or how they lived their lives, God was still for them. For those who believed in an afterlife, it didn't matter really how they lived their life because they believed that they would all be entering into God's holy kingdom. Why? Because they were born of a genetic line that goes back to Abraham. Because of how they read the promise to Abraham and to his offspring. But that wasn't true. What have we read about this whole time we've been reading this book? We've been reading about the very truth of the fact that they must be obedient to the command of God. They must be obedient to these things that God is going to do through them. They must live in abject obedience to all of these things. Now, in the Abrahamic covenant, what was required of Abraham and his descendants? Nothing. Simply that they would trust in God as Abraham trusted in God. That's it. Of course, I say that's it like it's an easy thing to do, but it's not. We cannot perform this work of God without his Holy Spirit resting in our hearts and minds. So, it is in this context that we're going to read this text itself. It's an important thing to remember because as we go through this, he's going to say repeatedly, you've heard it said of old, or you've previously heard it stated. What he's saying is, these are the words which that are common among you, that you've heard from the religious leaders. And then he counters it with, but I say to you. This is something that those religious leaders did not do. They wouldn't speak on their own authority. They wouldn't talk openly about the things of God, saying, well, this must be done, because they're afraid of getting something wrong. So they would always obfuscate. They would couch their terms to make it easier for them to sidestep the authority of what was being said. Jesus is coming straight out. He's saying, you have heard it said of old, but I say to you. Who is the one who was speaking? When they were very first back at the mountain of God, it was God speaking to the people. Here, once again, thousands of years in the future, Jesus, God in the flesh, is with them again, the Emmanuel of God. And he is again speaking to the people. He is bringing them back to the truth of what was said to them, to the truth of the standard of God and what that actually looks like for them. And it's in this context that we find ourselves today. Let's go ahead and begin. When Jesus saw the crowds, he went up on the mountain, and after he sat down, his disciples came to him. This is his audience now. He's speaking to the disciples. And he opened his mouth and began to teach them, saying, "Blessed are the poor in spirit, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven." Again, tons of notes in this section. Strongly recommend that you pause and read them. Blessed are those who mourn, for they shall be comforted. Blessed are the gentle, for they shall inherit the earth. Blessed are those who hunger and thirst for righteousness, for they shall be satisfied. Blessed are the merciful, for they shall receive mercy. Blessed are the pure in heart, for they shall see God. Blessed are the peacemakers, for they shall be called sons of God. Now, remember, he's speaking to his disciples. The term disciple doesn't mean just the 12 apostles. The term disciples means everybody who has attached themselves to him and who was present at that time to hear him speaking. So, he's done a bunch of healings. A bunch of people have heard him speaking, and they're all in expectation that the Messiah was to come. Again, 400 years of silence since they last had a prophet among them. And so they're standing here and they're expecting to hear words of encouragement. Verse 10, "Blessed are those who have been persecuted for the sake of righteousness, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven. Blessed are you when people insult you and persecute you and falsely say all kinds of evil against you because of me," because of the testimony of Jesus. "Rejoice and be glad, for your reward in heaven is great, for in the same way they persecuted the prophets who were before you." Again, being a prophet in this day and age was not something anybody wanted to do. Now, this next section, beginning in verse 13 through verse 19, he's basically warning them ahead of time. He's saying, buckle up. Verse 20 and at the end, verse 49, they form kind of bumpers to this whole section. They tie it together, and you'll see what I mean. Verse 13, "You are the salt of the earth." Again, read the notes on this. It helps a lot. "But if the salt has become tasteless, how can it be made salty again? No longer good for anything except to be thrown out and trampled underfoot by men." Now, once again, there's a very common way that it's a Jewish manner of speaking where they would say something from one direction, and then they would say something from another direction to kind of fill out the depth of what's being said. We'll see this a lot as we read through the Bible. But he starts off with, "You are the salt of the earth," right? And now he turns and says, "You are the light of the world." A city set on a hill cannot be hidden, nor does anyone light a lamp and put it under a basket, but on the lampstand, and it gives light to all who are in the house. Let your light shine before men in such a way that they may see your good works and glorify your Father who is in heaven. Do not think that I came to abolish the law or the prophets. I did not come to abolish, but to fulfill." This is Jesus telling them right now his mission on the earth. It's to fulfill the law of God. "For truly I say to you, until heaven and earth pass away, not the smallest letter," literally it's called an iota, it's this little thing, "or stroke shall pass from the law until it is all accomplished." Whoever then annuls one of the least of these commandments and teaches others to do the same shall be called least in the kingdom of heaven. But whoever keeps and teaches them, he shall be called great in the kingdom of heaven. Remember how I said before that the point of this Sermon on the Mount is to bring them back to the truth of what it is that God is teaching them? This is the purpose statement of what we're seeing. Whoever annuls one of the least of these commandments, the commandments that he's about to go through, right, and teaches others to do the same, well, who's that? The religious leaders are the ones teaching them these things. They shall be called least in the kingdom of heaven. But whoever keeps the commandments of God and teaches the commandments of God, he shall be called great in the kingdom of heaven. Bumper number 1, you'll see why. For I say to you that unless your righteousness surpasses that of the scribes and Pharisees, you will not enter the kingdom of heaven. That's the first gateway that we see here, right? What he's saying is that unless your righteousness exceeds that of, who is this? The religious authorities, the scribes and the Pharisees. He doesn't bother bringing up the Sadducees because the Sadducees don't believe in heaven or any of those things. He's talking about those who are kind of the fundamentalists, those who are strict adherents to the law of God. If you wanted to hear the law of God unadulterated, if you're brand new to a town, you go to a Pharisee synagogue. They're going to give it to you straight. That's the assumption that people have. Remember the line before this, verse 19, it'll come up a lot. Whoever then annuls one of the least of these commandments and teaches others to do the same shall be called the least in the kingdom of heaven. Jesus, again, is level setting with the people. Verse 21, for you have heard what the ancients were told. You shall not commit murder, and whoever commits murder shall be liable to the court. But I say to you, see that alternative, right? Jesus is saying, this is what you were told, but I, speaking from a place of authority, am telling you that everyone who is angry with his brother shall be guilty before the court. And whoever says to his brother, you good for nothing, shall be guilty before the Supreme Court. And whoever says, Raka, or you fool, shall be guilty enough to go into the fiery hell. Yeah, they'd shave things off. They say, oh, if you just murder somebody, if you end someone's life, yeah, then you're likely to be in trouble. But aside from that, everything is fine. Jesus is like, no. If you say things that are untrue, if you are angry without cause, there is certainly righteous anger. But if you are angry without cause against your brother, you are guilty of murder against that person in the eyes of God. Verse 23, therefore, if you are presenting your offering at the altar, and there remember that your brother has something against you, go, leave your offering there before the altar and go. First be reconciled to your brother, and then come and present your offering. Make friends quickly with your opponent at law while you are with him on the way, so that your opponent may not hand you over to the judge, and the judge to the officer, and you will be thrown into prison. Truly, I say to you, you will not come out of there until you have paid the last cent. Continuing on, you have heard that it was said, you shall not commit adultery. This is easy. I'm married, or if you're not married, how can you commit adultery, right? You have to be married in order to commit adultery. But I say to you that everyone who looks at a woman with lust for her has already committed adultery with her in his heart. Once again, what they were told was simply, you shall not commit adultery. Everybody knows what that means, but Jesus says that the core of that law is not merely the act of committing adultery with someone, but the attitude of your heart. He says, I say to you that everyone who looks at a woman with lust for her has already committed adultery with her in his heart. This includes pornography. In fact, he goes deeper. If your right eye makes you stumble, tear it out and throw it away from you. For it is better for you to lose one of the parts of your body than for your whole body to be thrown into hell. If your right hand makes you stumble, cut it off and throw it out from you. For it is better for you to lose one of the parts of your body than for your whole body to go into hell. See how he's restoring the fear of God before them? Telling them the truth of what it is that God has said? Verse 31, it was said, whoever sends his wife away, let him give her a certificate of divorce. There's a lot of notes on this section here. I'm going to scroll through them so you can see them. But I say to you that everyone who divorces his wife, except for the reason of unchastity, which is essentially adultery, right, makes her commit adultery. And whoever marries a divorced woman commits adultery. Well, how is this? Simple. In every marriage, remember, marriage is created by God. Every marriage, and this goes back to Adam and Eve, every marriage has not two people, but three within it. And that's not man, woman, and the courts. That's not man, woman, and the priest or the pastor. It's men, women, and God. So marriage is a three-legged stool, certainly, but it's still bound together. So if the man and the woman who are joined to God decide to separate from one another, they're still bound at God. See how that works? In God's eyes, they're just living separately. They're living in sin, but they're still married together. That's the point that he's making. Again, you have heard that the ancients were told, you shall not make false vows, but shall fulfill your vows to the Lord. But I say to you, make no oath at all, either by heaven, for it is the throne of God, or by the earth, for it is the footstool of his feet, or by Jerusalem, for it is the city of the great king. Now, what is this about? So it was very common for Jews to make promises by the holy things of God, but not to make promises by God himself. This goes back to, I believe it's in Leviticus, might be Genesis, I'm pretty sure it's Leviticus, where they're told specifically not to swear by God, or else they can become under judgment, right? So instead, they wouldn't swear by God, but they would swear by everything else. They would swear by Jerusalem as the city of God. They would swear by the gold of the temple, because they figured, well, the temple itself was just a building, but the gold is what makes it special. Or they would swear by the offering that is being offered today on top of the altar, figuring that that was the holy thing and not that it was the altar itself that was holy, and that was the thing that was not creating, but that was the thing that was sanctifying the things that were presented on it, because it represented God, because the temple represents God, because the city represents God. So what Jesus is saying here is, even when you swear by these things, you are still swearing by God, whether you want to or not. So in their little ways to kind of skirt around it so that they could shift blame if, what the thing that they said was going to happen didn't take place, Jesus is saying it doesn't matter because you've already missed the point. Continuing on. Nor shall you make an oath by your head, for you cannot make one hair white or black. But let your statement be yes, yes, or no, no. Anything beyond these is of evil. Continuing, you have heard that it was said, an eye for an eye and a tooth for a tooth. But I say to you, do not resist an evil person. But whoever slaps you on your right cheek, offer him the other also. Now, remember, when what's being said here, again, lots of notes in this section, right? But For someone to slap you on your right cheek, they would have to use their left hand, the weaker hand. Basically what it's saying is that when somebody insults you, not when somebody's trying to kill you, not saying when somebody's trying to mercilessly destroy you. He's saying when you are insulted from anyone else around you, and we're going to get to more of this later, but as Christians especially, we shouldn't hold it against somebody when they insult us. And most of us in good churches sing hymns that insult us for even more things beyond that call us worse things than anybody on the street typically would, because they speak through the window of God to our heart. They speak about the true nature of who we are. When somebody insults you, when somebody steals from you, when somebody seeks to harm you, as Christians, it's our duty to remember who they are before God, just as who we are before God. Before God saved me, I would have been doing the exact same thing that person's doing, because I didn't care. I didn't fear God. I didn't fear man. What did I care? But now that God has saved me, I now have a better understanding of who this person is. That they're not railing against me, but they're railing against God, and I'm just in the way. So when somebody insults me, I don't care. Let it go. Forgive them. Continuing on. But I say to you, if anyone wants to sue you and take your shirt, let him have your coat also. Whoever forces you to go 1 mile, will go with him too. Give to him who asks of you, and do not turn away from him who wants to borrow from you. Even if you are afraid you're not going to get that thing back, let it go. It's just things. You have heard that it was said, you shall love your neighbor and hate your enemy. But I, Jesus, say to you, love your enemies and pray for those who persecute you, so that you may be sons of your Father who is in heaven. He causes his sun to rise on the evil and on the good, and sends out rain on the righteous and the unrighteous. For if you love those who love you, what reward do you have? Do not even tax collectors do the same? If you greet only your brothers, what more are you doing than others? Do not even Gentiles do the same? Jesus has spent this entire time breaking down the basic theology of the Jewish church at that time. It had been a very what's a good way to put it? It had been intended to make it seem as easy as possible for anybody to follow these things. Right? As we go through this, reread it again and read only the you have heard that it was said. Don't read the second part, just read the first part, and you can easily see in your own mind how easy it is to keep those things. But when Jesus gives the full explanation of what it really means, then we see that this is impossible to do without the Spirit of God living within us. That's the point of what's being said. Remember what we read back in verse 20, way up at top? How we are to be, our righteousness is to meet or exceed that of these religious rulers that have told them all of these things that Jesus has just repudiated. And he now caps it off with this statement, verse 48. Therefore, now that they've been given the truth about what these things are that they've been taught, therefore, you are to be perfect not as the scribes, not as the Pharisees, but you are to be perfect as your heavenly Father is perfect. You want to know the standard that God lays before you? As you look at the simple 10 commandments, you're like, I can do that. Easy peasy. Great. From the moment you are conceived until the moment of your death, you must keep all of those laws perfectly. How perfect? As perfect as the one who embodies the law. As perfect as the standard bearer who has provided the standard to us keeps that law is how perfect you are to be in the administration of that law. In your adherence to that law, you must be perfect. I'm telling you, I love this whole book, but I love this section a lot. All right, that's it. That's all the reading and all of the notes. I hope you read them. They're amazing. God willing, we'll be back tomorrow. Behold, the word of the Lord.